For startups hiring engineers and engineers looking to join them, this podcast is for you.
Hi, welcome to Your Next Tech Startup. I am host Isabel Rasmussen. Today we are speaking with engineering leader Sven, who has hired, how many people would you say over your career?
About 500 probably. I mean, kind of depends, 400 something. I mean, it's not a firm number, a lot of people.
And we're going to actually focus on a couple of hiring experiences that you had related to people that you were, the first one is someone that you had previously worked with, and then you were at a new startup and wanted to bring them on the team. And then also another time when a colleague that I believe wasn't in engineering referred someone into an engineering role. You hired that person, it was a disaster.
Yep, very much so.
Okay.
How did you talk about it?
Let's jump into the first story, Sven.
Sure.
So you had previously worked with was like a lead engineer, or what was his title?
Yeah, he was one of the lead architects.
Okay, so was a lead architect at a previous startup, and then about how long had it been since you'd worked together?
Oh, good question. About 10 years or something like that.
Oh, wow. So quite a bit of time. Yeah. And I think that's something, I'm always talking to people about, like, work your network, like when you're looking for a new role, because, when you leave a great impression on someone from, even 10 years ago, those can be, people that can be great to connect with and work with again. So
Yep.
this is
I've been trying to hire him the entire time, but he was very happy where he was. Yep.
Yeah. And timing, I mean, with hiring, timing is huge. Oh, okay.
It
So finally, 10 years later, he's not happy in the role that he's in. So you reach out to him, get him to go through. And what was the role that you were hiring for?
Senior architect lead role, again, similar to what he was doing at the other job before.
Okay. And so goes through the interviews. What were some of the kind of technical interviews and process that was set up at that time?
Yeah, we're doing pretty much the standard stuff that you would expect, right? We have a panel of people, we coordinate our questions, we have a standardized technical test, we have standardized questions with a rubric, and it's fairly standard. We try to run everybody through that as much as possible to have a consistent system. We have a rating system that we try to use to normalize these things. So all that happened, and it was a very standard process. And when we kind of finish a candidate, we have a hiring meeting where everybody that has been part of it has given their written feedback already, of course, and their rating. And we kind of go through the notes and all compare stories and what has come up. And in this case, even though I knew this was a top-notch candidate, he clearly was very rusty with his interviewing skills. Haven't been at that company
because he'd been in a role for a really long time,
many
right?
years.
Yeah.
He was also probably a little bit nervous about it because he had not interviewed a lot. And so there were some folks in the pool of interviewers that felt that they had concerns and they did not think it was a good fit. I think it was mixed. Nobody questioned his technical capabilities at that point. It was all about, although it was a new technology stack for him as well, but again, he's a superstar, still is. But it was more culturally, is he going to fit? Is there going to be a good match with the team? Is he going to be happy in the job? All questions that we have to ask ourselves. And so there is usually a requirement for the vote or for the agreement to be basically unanimous. If you have a disagreement, you have to explain why. And those people that had disagreements did explain why.
And there was multiple people who were basically saying no hire because
it was like 2 out of 6 or something like that. It was not an overwhelming majority, but we do like to take it seriously when existing employees have concerns about a candidate. And so and that was one of the very few times where I chose to then kind of argue for that candidate. And basically, even though I was the hiring manager at the time, usually I stay out of those conversations, even though I have, of course, interviewed the candidates. But I don't want to taint the conversation too much by having a strong opinion about this. But I knew how much he would add to the overall team, so I kind of argued about things.
And
Tried
one
to
thing I
go.
want to ask, because
Sure.
so in interviews, often like there's facts and there's assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
So, someone could make a statement that says like, I really don't like working with people who wear baseball caps,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't think anyone's probably ever said in an interview.
Oh, you don't know, but yes.
And so that's a fact that they said that. And then there is someone could do something in an interview that makes it seem like they possibly could not like working with a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some assumptions being made there. And when I have ran interview processes, assumptions are very difficult.
They are.
I think people who interview a lot are probably the best ones at creating the least amount of bad assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes. And so there is that part of kind of practicing interviewing, and
Yep, for sure.
that can help people. But what I prefer to do in a debrief setting is look for patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Did everybody kind of start to notice this pattern of, I think one that I think as a common one is how they work through disagreement, or like
Mm-hmm.
how they work with colleagues, if they're open to other suggestions, those kind of things. And that's something like open to feedback, open to what other people think about things, is something that can come up in almost every single interview, whether it be technical or non-technical.
Yep.
And so when you have something like that, oftentimes your panel, everybody can have something to share on it, and then you can see if there's a pattern or not, versus when it's just one person who says, I got this weird feeling about this, but then nobody else collaborates that.
Mm-hmm.
So in this scenario, you had two people who were concerned about collaboration, but then you had the other four people on the panel, and you're not wanting to share your feelings too much and sway the group. But were there others on the panel who were saying, I got really good read on collaboration?
No, I don't think that was the case. The thing is, and that's one thing that I've seen in the past too, right? Once people start voicing concerns, it's much easier to kind of latch onto that and say, I had a little bit of a sense of that too. And a lot of that then turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy for me, where I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, wasn't a thing until 5 minutes ago, and now suddenly it's a thing. So it's important to kind of recognize that and kind of start steering against that. And there's never going to be a perfect scenario there, because people are people, and people have opinions, and they're not always clear to themselves what it is and why and how.
And so, I mean, I think what you're referring to is like groupthink, and how
Yep.
easy it is for that to start to happen in a debrief process. And so I'm thinking, like, if I was going to really like hard push back on groupthink based on what you had shared about this process, is you have a rubric, you have like all of this written feedback, and you have like a strong process, which unfortunately a lot of startups don't have rubrics. They don't have, besides, I mean, half the time, some of them don't even have written feedback before they're going into a debrief. But you had all of those things in place. So when you're pushing back, like, or trying to prevent groupthink, are you pushing on your feedback did not include that? I'm concerned. Like, are you calling groupthink out?
That's why it's valuable to have pre-written feedback. Not that people cannot change their feedback, of course, but it's much easier to say, look, I mean, this was not a concern when you wrote down your notes. Why is it now suddenly a big concern, right? And so it's not black and white ever, right? With people. And so for me, what made this scenario particularly interesting was the fact that even though there were two people there that had these concerns, ultimately, when two people, I mean, that's our voting thing. I mean, one person being somewhat iffy, okay, that's fine. Two people usually means an automatic disqualification. I mean, it means, sorry, that's just too much. We can't reconcile. In this case, I overruled that and was like, look, guys, trust me, I know this person. They are amazing collaborator. They are super strong technically. And well, I mean, sometimes as a manager, that's your prerogative and that's what you can do. You can't do it a lot because that's going to destroy confidence in the team, in the process and having a voice actually. Fortunately for me, in this particular case, it took 2 days before everybody was flabbergasted how awesome he is. And so so it was like, oh my gosh, that was best hire ever, right? And so if you have that strong of an understanding of that person, I think it's okay. But I would certainly not make it a rule, and I would certainly not advocate for leaders overruling their team's interview process and their interview results easy and readily. That's just not a good thing.
But like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but I also think it's such an interesting opportunity to really push on groupthink.
Yeah.
And try to change how you work together to make hiring decisions. Yeah. And I'm curious. So after that hire was made, and I've been in the scenario that you're describing multiple times where I've had hiring managers work their network, try to find someone that they've worked with before that they think would do well. And this was always when I was an in-house recruiter. Mm-hmm. And I would just be like, oh, great, we're going to fill this role quickly and like be done with it. I would say the number of times that it resulted in a no hire has been higher than when it resulted in a hire when those referrals come through. Mm-hmm. And it's always kind of baffled me that the hiring managers don't push back more. As a recruiter, as a recruiter, I think it's just in my blood. I'm pushing back constantly on everything. And so I think there's some degree that there's this comfort in pushing back that I have that maybe hiring managers don't have. I will say oftentimes that referral dynamic exists when a hiring manager is also new to the company. And
that can contribute to that. And again, you come back to, you want the team to feel that their voice is being heard. And so it's tricky. One thing that I've done in less clear scenarios where I was 100% convinced that this was the right hire is add additional interviews, right? I mean, the people that have concerns, give them an opportunity to specifically dig into that particular aspect of the interview process with the candidate and set up an expectation of, well, please explore this, make sure that you're absolutely sure, and give the candidate a chance to actually explain and or rectify the situation. The thing is, though, I mean, at some point you also have to then pull the plug and say, well, it doesn't work, right? And
but
so
how much are you addressing the fact that interviewing is broken? We get it wrong all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I find really frustrating in this dynamic when it's a colleague, someone that you've worked with as an engineer before, and then we don't give them an offer because someone during a 45-minute interview thinks, and it's not that they think they know more, but they think it's not a good idea. To me, like, the 5 years of experience working with somebody is up here in the truth domain. And the 45 minutes of talking to someone is like way down in the possible of like what is true. Yet we treat them like they're the same. And I think that is, to me, a very broken part of interviewing. And I think you and I are obviously coming at this from very different perspectives, because you have to lead the team and keep them, like, there's all of these things that you need to sort out with a team, whereas I just need to get people hired. Like,
very different motivations. And I will say, right, I mean, there have been times when, even though I knew from my experience with a candidate, and sometimes that's in network or just from an interview process, first time interview, a candidate had to be passed on. And that's life, right? I mean, even if it's in network, sometimes people really just don't do well, and you kind of just accept the fact that not everybody is going to make it through the interview process. And I mean,
Yeah.
and that, again, that's true for in-network hires as well as just cold calls, right?
Yeah.
And so for me,
But with the cold calls, you don't have the like that 5 years of knowledge. And now to
yep,
kind of push, I think it's great that we have these two stories that we're going to talk about
yep,
because I am at the moment arguing very strongly that like hiring managers should just override
man, yeah, I can
like
tell. Let's
so
look at the
this is
other
my
story
yeah,
because
so
it
this
can
is
go
my
both
stance
ways, right?
at the moment. And that's why this other story that you're going to tell now,
Yep,
I find beyond baffling.
yep,
So, okay, let's talk about this. So this next hiring scenario, I hope it was at a different company.
it was.
Okay. So it's at a different company. Was the role?
That was just standard software engineer, developer,
How many
a
years
little bit
experience?
mid-tier. I mean, not senior, not junior, just run-of-the-mill kind of.
So kind of 4 to 5 years experience?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So software engineer, 4 to 5 years experience. The referral came from
Somebody
what?
outside of the team, but within the company that was and still is a well-respected engineer
Okay, was another
background
software
person.
engineer.
So they knew what they were talking about.
Okay.
Everybody assumed.
Right. And they had worked together at a previous company.
Yeah,
Okay. So they refer them in, you interview them. The interviews go great. There's no
not great.
hesitations.
No.
No.
So there were definitely warning signs and there were concerns.
Okay. So what were some of the concerns?
Again, mostly culture fit, communication style, the ability to engage with people in a constructive way and be respectful, and but nothing. I mean, sometimes also I remember one person saying, "Oh, just got a weird vibe," and it's like that comes back to your previous statement, right? I mean, weird vibe is sorry, that's too unqualified in general. We all have our weird moments, and one word misspoken should not result in a condemnation and not hiring, right? So
Do you remember
we
what the
don't,
word was?
I don't remember. No, I mean
Yeah.
I don't think that was shared. But fundamentally, it was there were some concerns. I mean, it was definitely
Yeah.
in the hiring meeting there were some. Oh well, I mean, is this really going to work? Is it good?
Okay.
And the consensus was similar to the argument that I just made. It's like, well, maybe they had an off day. Maybe there was something in the misheard or misinterpreted. And let's, based on the recommendation, assume the best and still proceed with the
Yeah.
hiring.
And
And
the enormous difference in these two scenarios is the first one was your recommendation, someone that you could vouch for. The second one was someone on another team's recommendation, and you were
yep.
trusting their recommendation. Did you go back and talk to them and say, hey, these are some of the concerns that the group is bringing
Oh
up?
yeah, there were
Okay.
follow-ups, there were conversations, and I think there was an acknowledgement that there could be a little bit of a rough edge to that candidate, but there was also an assurance and a conversation around, well, but that's okay. I mean, has worked in the past and has not been a big concern in previous times. So yeah, we did our due diligence, just regular process. Yeah.
Okay, so even though there was these concerns, make the hire, and then like you had said previously, within 2 days, the other hire was phenomenal. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, so happy they're on the team."
Yep.
This time, 2 days on the team, and what happens?
Well, there was a lot of HR calling going on. That candidate or that then employee had basically discriminated on basically every minority or discriminatable group that is possible. There were people that were racially discriminated against. There were sexual discrimination. There was gender. I mean, it was everything, and to a point
And the
where
first 2 days had offended, like made racist, sexist, probably
yep,
homophobic
yep, everything.
remarks
Yep.
to how many people?
I would probably say 4 or 5.
Okay,
And,
in two
and
days.
So it was pretty staggering and pretty amazing to see. It started literally for me the first morning actually after the first day, right? He took a day to get through that list. And so the next morning I already had 2 calls coming in from 2 of our employees basically saying, hey, this is what happened. Of course, immediately involved HR in this. It became very clear basically immediately that we would have to take action, which we did, all the way into basically escorting off the premise because there were security concerns. On day two. So that was probably the most amazing mishire that I have ever participated in.
Yeah. And it is so fascinating to me that, number one, anyone can act this way, like in their first week of their job and think that's okay. That is beyond me. But that this person was a referral.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So, and this is definitely I still will I stand by but maybe I guess the rule, if there was going to be something that you would take away from this, I would say my takeaway from this is for your own references, override your team to make good hires.
I would say, you had thoughts on rules and you kind of referred to one of them, which is, I think it's super important to have written notes.
Yeah.
People should write down their thoughts and their impression right after the meeting. Whether you do that in a free-form text or whatever, it doesn't really matter. People forget their thoughts very quickly, especially when you are in a hiring group of having 20 candidates come through. You mix up names, you mix up events. That happens very, very quickly and very easily. And use that as a guiding discussion tool to help mitigate those kinds of outlier conversations, right? When somebody comes in, in our case, the hiring manager does review those notes, of course, before the meeting. So you already kind of know where things are going, most likely. But then also it allows to challenge when, like you said, groupthink starts to happen, right? If somebody changes their tune completely from, oh my gosh, this is the best candidate, to, oh my gosh, horrible, because somebody else has said something, you can challenge that. I would always lead with inviting a conversation first. Overriding is, in my opinion, yes, it should happen, it can happen, and it's not automatically a bad thing. It should be used very, carefully. Right? Otherwise, people will lose confidence in their contribution in the hiring process. Right. And so it's important to be careful. But oftentimes, people give you the ammunition to challenge that by having those written notes already, right? It's like I said, there's these other positive things that somebody else has said. And when you can point out those inconsistencies, whereas like one person says, oh my gosh, horrible communicator, and the other person says, oh my gosh, best communicator ever.
Yeah.
Why do you both have that impression? What triggered that for you, right? And people have very different standards.
Yeah.
Some people's best communicator is the other's worst.
This has been a fun conversation. I think it just brings up the aspect of how hard hiring is and how difficult it is to make a rule, like how to make decisions around hiring. Was leaning towards always make the hire if it's coming from a really good recommendation. But then this is, you did that and it was the worst outcome I think I've maybe ever heard.
Yeah.
Of a hire. So humans are incredibly complex. And I think that is why hiring will always be complicated, because on both sides, you're dealing with very, complicated dynamics that go on between humans. So yeah, I would love to end this with a great learning. But I think, what would you say would be your great learning to end on?
That communication is key. People are very different. Not every person fits every team. And teams need to be able to assert their power in how they welcome new members of their team. But at the same time, a good manager will also have insights in what the team needs and what a candidate can bring to the team, especially when they're doing it from in-network. In that case, I do think it is soft yes to override for me, whereas if you use it judicially and occasionally, then I think it's okay. if you turn into a hiring manager that basically says, I know everything. Yes, we have to follow a process to satisfy the legal team, but I will hire whoever I want. Good luck. You're not going to have a great team. I can
I don't
guarantee
think
you that.
I've never encountered that hiring manager, but
No, well, I've seen a few that are edging into that direction, but
oh,
yes, I
interesting.
mean it's fortunately also not the rule. I think if you want one big statement from my life, it's rules are great, but you also have to know when to not follow them, and that's
Yeah. And then I do think one final good rule to follow is fire fast.
yes, that's for sure, right? I mean, that no, now we're getting into a whole new conversation, but one of my mantras is that I owe it the candidate to move fast, right? I mean, if we mishire, and it's performance or culture or whatever it is, lingering on that for a year or for even
Yeah.
half a year or whatever it is, does not do anyone good. It harms the team, it harms the company,
Yeah.
it harms the candidate. Nobody is happy and wants to be in a team where they are not valued and where they're obviously not performing. It's a you owe that to a candidate to and the team to make sure that if there's clear problems, act on them. And that does not immediately jump to firing. Have a performance plan, do all the
Yeah.
right things, figure out how to fix it, but do that fast. Yes.
Except, well, thank you so much for coming, talking
My
with me,
pleasure.
and love to have the conversation again because obviously with 400 hires, you've got some more stories to tell. So,
I have endless stories. Thank you so
all
much. I
right.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank
It was
you.
fun.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.